we've now got our users hooked up to our list of companies, and we can ask for details about each company that a user is associated with. So if we look at our query over here, yep, we can access a user, we can ask for their company, and we can get the name of that company, like so. But we do not yet have the ability to ask for just a company by itself. So I can't do something like, hey, you know what, just give me the company with an ID of 1 and tell me the name. We don't have a field on the root query type that allows us to do this yet. So if we think back to the diagram that we were just looking at, this one right here, remember our root query only allows us to go to a user. We don't have the ability to go directly to a company just yet. We can only access the company by first going to the user and then over to the company. So in this section, I want to work on adding the ability to go from a root query over to our company directly without having to worry about any users in between. After we do that, we'll be able to make a query that looks just like this, where we can say, hey, go find a company and tell me a little bit about that company. You know, go find the one with ID 1, tell me their name, tell me their description, and so on. So let's open up our schema file. We're going to find our root query type inside of there. Here's my schema file. I've got my root query type right here, and we're going to add on another field to our root query type that we're going to call company, and it's going to allow us to query directly for a company. So let's get to it. In the fields object, as a sibling to user, so this is a sibling to user, we'll say company. The type will be a company type because that's what this field is going to return. It's going to return an instance of a company. And then the other arguments that we're going to place on here, or the other properties, are going to look nearly identical to the user. So we're also going to add on the args object because we want to be able to ask for a company via a very particular ID. And then we'll also define the resolve function that will actually go out, find the particular company, and return it. So we could place our args with an ID and type of GraphQL string, like so. Remember, this args object right here tells our schema that whenever someone tries to access this field, we expect them to be providing this ID argument, and the ID should be provided as a string. Then we can do the resolve function. And again, it's going to look awfully similar to the request that we just made to get a particular user. We'll make a network request over to http localhost 3000 /companies and then we'll use string interpolation or template strings and say args.id, like so. Because I used a template string in here, a little bit of ES6, do make sure that you're using backticks instead of single quotes here. Very important. And then again, we'll do that little bit of compatibility between Axios and GraphQL just to make sure that we only return the data that comes back from the request and not the entire response object. All right, let's give this a shot. I'm going to change back over to my graphical. You'll notice that I still have an error here. Remember, graphical does not automatically refresh our schema. We have to actually refresh it manually. And now it should be a lot more obvious. Graphical gets the new schema. It says, okay, I understand that I can fetch a company. It looks like you gave me the correct arguments. Okay, I'm happy. Let's run this query. Again, if you get this unknown operation null, you can just delete and retype name. Just a little bug around graphical. And when I put the name in and run the query, now I'm returning Apple. Fantastic. We can also look for the description. And of course, if we want to get the ID in the response as well, there we go. Perfect. So this has added the idea of a company to our schema. If you had any issue with getting this thing to show up, always remember you should check your terminal out and make sure that you don't have any errors over here or any typos. If you have any typos, they'll always show up in here and let you know, hey, you got a typo on XYZ line. Okay, this is great. Let's go back and continue in the next section, and we're going to work on linking together companies and users in one more fashion.